An immigrant recently walked free in Massachusetts. This freedom came after a period of detention. He was released on bond. The release itself was a quiet moment. Yet it followed a very loud and troubling event. This event involved federal immigration agents. It raised serious questions about their methods. For the man involved, it was the end of one difficult chapter. Another chapter, his ongoing immigration case, was still to be written. His supporters felt a sense of relief, but also continued concern. The news of his release spread through advocate communities. They had worked tirelessly for this outcome. The bond hearing represented a small victory. However, the memory of his arrest lingered heavily. It was not a standard, uneventful apprehension. Instead, it was marked by an act of force. This force seemed excessive to many observers. The immigrant had supporters. These supporters were present and vocal. They highlighted the nature of his arrest. They pointed to a system they believed needed urgent review and change. His journey through the immigration system had been fraught with anxiety. The system is complex. It is often unforgiving. For many, it feels like a labyrinth with no clear exit. The man faced the uncertainty of his future. He worried about deportation. He worried about separation from his community. The bond offered a temporary reprieve. It allowed him to fight his case from outside detention. This was a significant development. It provided a small measure of hope in a daunting process. The release, while positive, did not erase the preceding events. It brought the immigrant back into the community, but the community remembered how he was taken. The circumstances of his detention cast a long shadow. It was a stark reminder of the powers wielded by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, commonly known as ICE. The focus now shifted slightly. It moved from securing his release to addressing the conduct of the agents, and more broadly to the policies that allow such conduct to occur. The fight was far from over. The incident that led to the immigrant's detention was shocking. It happened about a month before his release. ICE agents approached him while he was in a car. The situation escalated quickly. Details suggest the agents were determined to take him into custody. He was, by reports, seated in the vehicle. What happened next was captured by some and recounted by others. It painted a picture of an aggressive arrest. This was not a quiet surrender. It was a confrontation. One ICE agent reportedly used a hammer. The agent used the hammer to break the car window. Glass shattered. The sound was sharp and violent. This action allowed agents to access the vehicle. It allowed them to apprehend the immigrant. The use of a hammer in such a circumstance immediately drew criticism. Was it necessary? Was it proportionate to any perceived threat? These questions hung in the air. The image of a federal agent smashing a car window was powerful. It was also deeply unsettling for many. Witnesses and advocates described the scene as chaotic. They said it was frightening. The immigrant inside the car likely felt immense fear. The act of breaking the window was an act of force. It signaled a non-negotiable intent. For those who believe in de-escalation, this was the opposite. It was a rapid escalation. It was a demonstration of power. The broken glass became a symbol. It symbolized a broken trust for some. It symbolized a system willing to use brute force. The aftermath of the hammer incident was immediate. The immigrant was taken into ICE custody. The car was damaged, but the damage went beyond the physical. It damaged the perception of ICE for some in the community. It fueled arguments that the agency too often resorts to aggressive tactics. These tactics, critics say, can traumatize individuals. They can also alienate communities. The federal agency stated its agents were performing their duties, but the method was now under intense scrutiny. The story began to spread. Once in custody, the immigrant faced the immigration legal system. This system is notoriously difficult to navigate. It is a world of forms, hearings, and arcane rules. He needed legal representation. He needed advocates. The fight for his release on bond began almost immediately. Bond would allow him to return to his community. It would allow him to prepare his defense more effectively. Detention makes this process much harder. Access to lawyers is limited. Resources are scarce. His legal team worked to demonstrate his eligibility for bond. This usually involves showing he is not a flight risk. It also involves showing he is not a danger to the community. These are standard criteria, but applying them can be subjective. The government often argues against bond. They prefer to keep individuals in detention. This makes the legal battle uphill. Supporters rallied. They wrote letters. They made calls. They wanted the judge to see him as a person, not just a case number. The legal proceedings took time. Each delay added to the immigrant's stress. It added to his family's anxiety. Immigration courts have large backlogs. Cases can drag on for months, even years. The request for bond was a critical juncture. It was a chance for a measure of freedom, while the larger case continued. The hearing itself would have involved arguments from both sides. His lawyer would present his ties to the community. They would present his lack of criminal history, if applicable. The government lawyer would present their reasons for continued detention. Ultimately, the judge granted bond. This decision was a significant moment. It showed the legal arguments were persuasive. It showed the community support had an impact. However, securing bond is not the end of the legal journey. It is merely a step. The immigrant still faced the underlying immigration charges. He still had to fight his case for the right to remain in the United States. The release on bond, though, was a crucial victory. It provided him a fighting chance. It showed the system, while flawed, could sometimes bend towards compassion. The hammer incident resonated far beyond Massachusetts. It became another data point for those concerned about ICE tactics. Such incidents raise profound questions about human rights. They raise questions about the appropriate use of force. Are immigrants, regardless of their legal status, not entitled to humane treatment? Advocates argue passionately that they are. The image of the shattered window became a rallying cry. It fueled calls for greater oversight of ICE operations. It fueled demands for accountability. These events do not occur in a vacuum. They reflect broader immigration policies. They reflect the priorities of the government in power. When enforcement becomes the primary goal, the methods can become more aggressive. The focus can shift from due process to swift removal. This shift has consequences. It impacts individuals directly, like the man in Massachusetts. It also impacts entire communities. Fear can spread, trust in law enforcement can erode. This makes everyone less safe. The call for legal reforms grows louder with each controversial incident. Reformers seek changes in how ICE operates. They want clearer guidelines on the use of force. They want more robust accountability mechanisms when agents overstep. They also seek broader changes to immigration law itself. Many argue the current system is broken. It is punitive. It fails to recognize the humanity of those caught within its gears. The story of the hammer and the broken window adds urgency to these calls. Ultimately, the pursuit of legal justice is paramount. Every individual deserves to be treated with dignity. They deserve to have their rights respected. The immigrant's release on bond was a step towards justice in his specific case. But the larger issues remain. Advocacy groups continue their work. They document abuses. They provide legal aid. They lobby for policy changes. The goal is a system that is fair, humane, and just. The memory of the hammer serves as a stark reminder of how far there is to go. It underscores the vital need for vigilance.